As always, a huge thank you to Starboard, who are once again this season's main sponsors. Starboard has a history of innovation across water sports, starting in 1994 by revolutionising the design of windsurf boards, and they've brought that bang up to date recently, bringing foil windsurfing onto the Olympic stage with their IQ foil package. Starboard got behind stand-up paddleboarding in a huge way in the early days and continue to lead the industry to reduce their environmental impact. Their focus on innovation brought them 7 world champions at the ICF Worlds last year, and all of them were using their Lima paddle range. They continue to improve and innovate their boards and their paddles for all abilities across all flavours of the sport, including adventure. And you can find out more about Starboard through their website, which is linked to in the show notes. Hey, welcome to this bonus episode from SUPfm. As you may have guessed, all our bonus episodes are ones where we step outside our usual interview format. And this one is also a little bit different from normal. So if you're looking for our regular long-form interview episodes, we've got over 90 in our back catalogue to listen to. One of the things that I'm most proud of is the number of international listeners we have. We've got listeners across 118 countries across the world, and I wanted to give a big shout out to every single one of you. We really appreciate it. And the reason for thanking our listeners from across the world at this point is because this particular episode is a little UK focused. In fact, it's probably a lot UK focused, because this year London is hosting an APP World Tour event between September the 16th and the 18th with a field of top-class international athletes, including recently crowned SUP Connect Woman of the Year and friend of the show, April Zilg, whose incredible form continues. So this episode may mean more to our British listeners and those who are able to travel over to London and join us. But you're still welcome to join us and share in the excitement of this episode as we prepare ourselves for Britain's highest profile SUP event of the year, where I talk to the CEO of the APP, Tristan Boxford. I also speak to 2 of our young British competitors taking part in the event, and finally to my favourite ex-GB national title holder and friend of the show, Sarah Thornley of SUP Junkie, as we look ahead with some excitement, it's got to be said, to the competition. And we're planning to be there attending the event at Canary Wharf in September. So if you're coming along too and you see me, then please come and say hello. It'd be great to meet you. And you might even get into the second APP London episode, which is going to be recorded live at the event. And SUP Junkie will also be covering the live racing. So it's all happening between September the 16th and the 18th at Canary Wharf, and there's also a paddle festival going on throughout the 3 days, and you can register for free for a load of events, races and activities, and you can do that at appworldtour.com. So let's kick things off with a quick chat I managed to grab with the CEO of the APP, Tristan Boxford. He was travelling at the time, which explains the rather patchy sound quality. Tristan, it's great to speak to you. And for those listeners who haven't heard of APP, just tell us a little bit about what the organisation does and the events that you run.
Absolutely. APP stands for the Association of Paddle Surf Professionals. We founded the organisation under a different name right at the beginning, back in 2009, actually. Right in the early days of stand-up paddling. We launched with the Surfing World Tour in 2010, had 5 events across 5 countries, and then built it out from then until now with a big evolution, obviously spreading into racing by end of 2011. We've been crowning world champions since that time. So that's essentially what we do. And, unlike the ISA and the ICF, where they have one big event a year, we're a world tour that crowns a world champion as a culmination of a complete tour of events.
Absolutely, and a spectacular tour in some quite staggering locations as well. But it's the first year really since the pandemic where there's been a more normal season of events being carried out. And I know a lot of people have suffered significantly from COVID in all sorts of ways. But I guess for a body which is involved with a growing sport, having your momentum interrupted for a couple of years was particularly difficult for you. And I guess that this year is all about rebuilding.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a tough moment. In some ways, like all these things, there's a silver lining. It gave us an opportunity to rejig some things, really focus on how we redefine things moving forward. We got a lot of momentum through 2018 and 19 with the City Paddle Festival approach of, really bringing the sport to the people rather than expecting the people to come to the sport. And that had a really great impact across the world. And we started to get a lot of interest from host cities all over the world. Fortunately, that has continued, and obviously since COVID, with the boom in the sport, that's further been propelled forward. And this year we've got 6 great city venues and 3 kind of core market venues, as we call them, for surfing, and that'll almost double for 2023. So, yeah, it's an exciting time for the sport. But as you say, it's this year's about rebuilding the foundations, really pushing the sport forward, representing the concept of a professional paddler. And what that means, and creating formats that are both dynamic and exciting for people to participate in, but also spectate as well.
Absolutely. So the first of this year's series was in Santa Monica, in a pretty iconic location for water sports. But why is it that London has become such a fixture on the circuit? Because this is now the 3rd time that things have been hosted here.
Well, there's a personal connection with London. I grew up in Twickenham. I'm British by nationality, so I naturally have connections and background in England, although I haven't lived in the country pretty much for 27 years, so it's been a long while. But, as we kind of looked at how to kind of move forward with that City Paddle Festival approach, we had Paris, which was obviously a great success with sort of 3,000 entrants for 1,000 spots to paddle down the River Seine. The next obvious place to do it is the River Thames, quite honestly. In terms of an iconic river, it's one of the most iconic. And in terms of backdrops between Tower Bridge, the Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, you don't get much better than that. So that was the initial draw. But once we got to England, it's been exciting to see over the kind of 4 years since we first came to England with the tour, just to see the development of the community, to see the growth in the sport. My mum lives in Twickenham near the River Thames, and now I was at dinner with her the other night, and it was just like chock-a-block with paddlers going in the water and paddling around. And I remember coming there in 2009 when we were doing some, promo stuff around stand-up paddling. We were just launching the concept of a tour, and no one had ever seen a stand-up paddleboard.
Mm.
So it's
quite amazing, isn't it? I was talking to someone the other day where, when I started, on an inflatable inevitably and pumping it up on the beach. And I used to get people just wandering past. I mean, it was a great conversation starter. What are you doing? It's no mystery to anyone these days. It's been phenomenally popular. But paddling the Thames in central London, as you said, it is really iconic. And it's also something that even British people don't often get a chance to do, because as a tidal stretch, it can be pretty challenging. So how difficult was it for you to get that initial permission to compete on that stretch of water back when you first sort of launched in 2018?
Well, it was definitely challenging. The PLA is a very well-run and tightly run organization. They're very conscious of the dangers of the Thames. It's a very busy waterway with not only private vessels. There's a lot of commercial traffic. There's a lot of construction traffic. And there's a lot of development going on the waterfront. So there's a lot of potential dangers and hazards, particularly through the stretch that we're going through. But fortunately, because we've done a lot of really intricate races in crazy places across the globe, we were able to showcase a level of expertise of dealing with not only the hazards that come across, but the water management as well. We've run a race around the Statue of Liberty. We've run races down the River Seine. We've run races across, ocean channels. Through out of San Francisco around the Golden Gate Bridge and in 20-foot surf. There's just a lot of different environments we've worked in. And I think the PLA saw that we were capable of doing it. They restricted the numbers the first year. We've been able to grow year on year, but it's still very much a pro race. Just as much as we'd like to have the mass participation part of it, it is quite a dangerous waterway. It's not permitted on a daily basis. And we need to make sure that we're sending the right message that this is a display event rather than everybody can go out and do it every day. So it's a special opportunity for those involved for sure. But it's one that we're very grateful for.
And as we've already talked about, you've got a potentially huge increase in interest, because while SUP has been building strongly for years, it's increased exponentially over the last couple. So there's a real opportunity to engage with those new people and capture their imagination and really build out the sports profile. So you have referred to it already, but what are you doing specifically over the 4 days to engage all those paddlers who've maybe just arrived in the sport over the last couple of years?
Well, I think one of the reasons we chose Canary Wharf as a venue, and they're kindly hosting us, is it's surrounded by water, and it's quite safe waterways. You don't have the complications of the River Thames because it's kind of cut off from the River Thames, and it's not tidal, so everybody can enjoy the waterways extremely well. We did a taster event for them last year, and we had 600 people across 2 days try the sport for the first time. Some people who couldn't swim, some people who are scared of the water, and all kinds of different scenarios. And what was the overwhelming feedback was, when are you guys coming back? When is this happening again? How can we get involved in the sport? So this time we really focused on building out a full program, and really with the concept of delivering a great spectacle that can inspire people, but creating an inclusive environment where people don't feel alienated. They feel that they can jump up and have a go themselves. So in conjunction with Canary Wharf, we're offering free clinics to do SUP yoga clinics, SUP Pilates, introductory paddle clinics, sessions with the pros. We have a corporate challenge called the Nautical Mile. So we're engaging all the different banks from across the financial sector in London to be involved. And then of course we have open racing. So we have open and pro-am racing through Canary Wharf. So we have a really cool course. It's about a 7-kilometer course that'll go through all the waterways within Canary Wharf. We have short course racing, and we have a Paddle for the Oceans initiative, which is, raising money and awareness for to protect our oceans. And obviously Canary Wharf very committed to that campaign as well. Just they've cleaned up the waterways a lot. There's open water swimming going on there. There's all kinds of stuff. It's a whole new area for Canary Wharf. So I think overall the weekend will provide something for everyone. So fun with mates as far as the corporate challenge is concerned, and an opportunity to try a new sport. Do something with the family, and an opportunity to be competitive if you feel that way, and then you can sit back and watch the best in the world do it right in front of your face, and actually get splashed by them. So it's an interesting.
Excellent. And getting up nice and close to the athletes. I mean, certainly from my experience chatting to them, I've never come across a more accessible bunch, and obviously all the brands will be there as well. So if you're in the market for a paddleboard, I'm sure someone can give you a bit of advice there as well.
Absolutely, and that's part of the whole program. We've got a pretty extensive social program. So we've got an opening night on the Friday night at Pergola, which is a restaurant within Canary Wharf. We've got a movie night on Saturday, which would be a super cool occasion. And we've got a big screen on the water, so and a grandstand that's built over Middle Dock. So it'll be a pretty dramatic venue. And then on the Sunday, we have an after party at Grandstand. So there's lots of opportunities to mingle with the pros, get to know them, and it's it's one of those sports, as it's a very intimate sport. It's not soccer where you're sitting in the stands and watching the football game. You'll never meet the guys or understand how they live or who they are. You'll be literally chatting to them from 1 minute to the next and paddling next to them, and they're very approachable. So it's a unique moment in the sport, and one that we should savor.
Tristan, thanks for your time today. I'll be there on the key days of competition, chatting with the athletes and pulling together an episode on the back of it. But I think you're making a really important contribution to the wider sport by showing it on a wider stage and making the elite level more visible. And as the sport gets more mature, it's important in all sorts of levels to see it as a place for sustainable professionalism and to hook some of those new paddlers into some of the other flavours of SUP. So Tristan, thanks so much for your time. I know things are really busy. Go well, and I'll see you in London. So thanks to Tristan, the boss of the APP, for that very interesting chat. And while the event is attracting the international talent to London, we've also got a very exciting crop of young British athletes who are all progressing brilliantly and who I believe on their current trajectory could be pushing for wins at the very highest level in the not too distant future. And earlier in the season, I got to chat to two of them on the beach at Bournemouth. Holly Pye and Blue Ewer had both won their respective races at the Battle of the Bay event, and a couple of minutes after Holly had crossed the finish line and shortly before she got her breath back, I grabbed a quick chat with her. So I'm in Bournemouth at the Battle of the Bay, and I'm joined by Holly Pye, who's the recently crowned winner of the distance race down here. How are the conditions today, Holly?
Hi, the conditions were so fun. It was it's quite choppy. It's pretty windy. The course is kind of upwind, downwind, but not exactly. It's a bit side on, so really interesting. The downwind sections were really fun. I think that's where I managed to make up my ground. But yeah, the conditions are really interesting. Nice to do something choppy. Absolutely.
It is a bit unusual here. So you caught a couple of bumps?
Yeah, caught a couple of bumps, which I think made the difference. It's quite hard to stay on track because the bumps weren't perfectly lined up with the shape of the course. But it was nice to make the most of them. Definitely, helped.
And you've had a cracking season so far. You've been out doing the Euros and you've been well placed within the top 10. How's this season going for you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm loving this season so far. I've done a few of the Euro Tour events. Two of them I've come in the top 10. And the other one I didn't do quite so well. I still loved it, still did all right. I'm basically just using this season as a big learning curve, and then next year I want to properly race. So yeah, really enjoying it, learning a lot this year.
Excellent. And obviously we've got the APP coming up. What's your preparation between now and then?
So I'm really looking forward to the APP event actually, but it's not one of my main focus events this year. So I'm kind of preparing for the Europeans and the Worlds now. So the APP will be just a little sort of tester, see how I'm lining up against everyone.
But hopefully, with it being such a huge event, we'll be able to mobilise the SUP community to come and give you a bit of support. So in terms of the training, how are you changing things up this season? Are you have you changed your approach at all based on your performance to date?
Yeah, I've changed my approach quite a lot. So I'm training with Glenn Eldridge at Ocean Sports at the moment. He's helping me out. We're discussing a lot together. And a lot of my training is much shorter than it was before. So before I was kind of just doing it myself with a bit of a plan. But it's always hard to execute a plan when you've got different conditions. I live by the coast, so I don't want to skip a surf session to go and do flat water intervals or something. So yeah, but now I've got a much more structured plan from somebody who really knows what they're doing. And a lot of my sessions are, like I said, shorter than they were before, but actually I haven't lost any endurance, so I'm quite pleased about that, and I'm loving it. Definitely getting faster.
Excellent. Are you a full-time athlete at the moment?
I wish. No, I've got 3 jobs. I work full-time in the NHS. I'm self-employed on the side as a sleep physiologist. And I'm also now actually recently taken up some work for Paddle Logger. So I've got 3 jobs as well as training. I've got to pay for everything. So
Wowza, that's amazing how you managed to fit it in. Well, Holly, congratulations for today.
Thank you.
Congratulations and wishing you all the best of luck for the rest of the season, and look forward to seeing you at APP and seeing you perform on the world stage.
Thank you so much.
So it was great to speak to Holly, and following his win in equally challenging conditions, I also managed to grab the winner of the men's race, Blue Ewer, for a quick post-race chat. Okay, I'm down here at the Battle of the Bay with Blue Ewer, who's the recent winner. He's just won the distance race. Down here, it's you might be able to hear it, it's a little bit blowy and a little bit wavy. There's a bit of downwind action there. And how was the race for you?
Oh yeah, it's great fun. It makes a change for have a GB SUP race and have some proper ocean conditions rather than just a nice flat race. So yeah, I got a good start and went onto upwind, which was blowing a gale, so it was a super tough upwind section. And then you get around the buoy and it's just a nice downwind. So you had basically the wind swell behind you and then the ground swell coming to the side, so you could kind of link in the back of those troughs and get some nice runners. But yeah, it was really good fun. Yeah, enjoy the course.
It was an awesome performance, and you've had a good season so far. Just take us through some of the highlights to date.
Yeah, sure. Well, I did the head of the dart at the start of the year and won that one, and then didn't have the best race when I went to Cardiff. I got beaten by Joop van Beekel from Netherlands. He's like an 11 city winner, but that kind of told me I need to get proper training a bit harder again. And then, so I've done since then. I've basically, last weekend I was in Gran Canaria doing the Euro tour. I came 8th there. So it was nice to paddle against some guys who are a lot quicker than me. And it was good to see the pace of like the top guys in Europe. So I'm coming back today, and the pace was a little bit easier today. So it's a bit more relaxing than last weekend. But it was nice to see everyone down here again. And the base of the race is always super competitive, super fun race. So it's good to have some nice conditions today.
Brilliant. And then looking ahead to the APP in London, obviously that's the objective for all of our top paddleboarders. How's the preparation going for that? Yeah,
good. Training and everything's feeling really good. I'm feeling really good ahead of it. I was like, the APP was my first international event I did in 2019. So it'd be good to get back to doing that again, racing against top guys in the world. So I'm looking forward to that.
And how is it like for a British paddler paddling that iconic route down the Thames? It must be quite special.
Well, to be honest, last time I did it, I didn't even know what I was paddling past. All I was looking at was people in front of me. And then I finished in the race, and everyone's like, "Oh, do you see this? Do you see that?" But to be honest, when you got your head in, you're racing, you don't really notice it. All I noticed was the start. It was pretty cool starting underneath Tower Bridge last time. But I went past House of Parliament, London Eye, and didn't see a thing of that last time.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not exactly a tourist tour there. And I don't know whether you've had a look at the paddlers who are going to be there this year. It looks like it's going to be a top field you're going to be competing against.
Yeah, I mean, the level of paddleboarding across Europe and the world at the moment is just growing and growing. Whereas 4 or 5 years ago, you got like 5 or 10 people who were up there. Now there's like 20, 30 guys who can all come in the top 10 from all over the world. So it's going to be harder than ever. But it's good. It's good for the sport, seeing there's so much depth in it. And the level is just getting higher and higher. Absolutely.
And in terms of that event, it's the most subscribed to APP event, I think, at the moment. In terms of the popularity of stand-up paddleboarding, it definitely seems to be building at the moment, and you'll certainly get quite a bit of support there. Have you got any words that you'd like to say to your fans? Because there's going to be a huge representation of the paddleboard community up there supporting you.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to see any of the British guys coming down and watching, supporting, because I know myself and a few of the other guys are going to be racing. We're going to need all the support we can get against those guys, because it's going to be a pretty tough race.
As always, a huge thank you to Starboard, who are once again this season's main sponsors. Starboard has a history of innovation across water sports, starting in 1994 by revolutionising the design of windsurf boards, and they've brought that bang up to date recently, bringing foil windsurfing onto the Olympic stage with their IQ foil package. Starboard got behind stand-up paddleboarding in a huge way in the early days and continue to lead the industry to reduce their environmental impact. Their focus on innovation brought them 7 world champions at the ICF Worlds last year, and all of them were using their Lima paddle range. They continue to improve and innovate their boards and their paddles for all abilities across all flavours of the sport, including adventure. And you can find out more about Starboard through their website, which is linked to in the show notes. So we've spoken to the CEO and we've spoken to 2 of our exciting young prospects for the future of British competition in the sport. So who better to sit down with next and pull everything together than someone who's been a flag bearer for British SUP racing, as a racer themselves, as an administrator, and also through representing the sport through the media and her live feeds. So I'm joined by Sarah, aka SUP Junkie. You are obviously an ex-GB champion and very, very close to the British racing scene. So just looking ahead to the APP, we have got athletes competing, and some of them qualified by right, some of them came through via the GB route, and it'd be good to chat through them individually and how they're performing the lead up to the competition. But first of all, in terms of the APP, I mean, I'm hugely excited that the APP is returning to London after a couple of years absence. How do you feel about APP being back?
Well, the APP, really excited actually. It's been a while. I think we've both been to a couple of them, and I think the level of excitement for me is who's coming. and not just our athletes, but obviously world class athletes from the UK and abroad. And I just find that really exciting, being someone who's raced, someone who loves racing, follow it all over the world, try and share as much of the sort of good news stuff as I can. And that's what really excites me, is the ability to be able to see and watch those athletes competing together, be they from the UK or abroad, Australia, America, all over the world. There are some incredible athletes out there, and it is very, very exciting. And also to be able to chat to them as well, because they are really friendly. And if you see them on the street or whatever, you can get a selfie with them. They don't mind. You can have a chat to them. I'm really excited about it, yeah.
And it's quite a privilege for us, because I know you're going to be there, and you might be persuaded to hold a microphone and have the odd camera pointed in your direction occasionally. So let's take the international field first of all. So obviously it's sort of early on in the competition. There was Santa Monica. There were obviously lots of things that lots of incidents, I'd say, that happened at Santa Monica. But certainly in terms of the women's race, it's nip and tuck at the top, but I can't see anyone beyond April taking London. She seems to be in a unbelievable form at the moment.
I think April is, and funnily enough, April was probably one of the last athletes that I interviewed at the APP in 2019. And I didn't really know much about her. I say this in a really lovely way, she's mad as a box of frogs, but she is absolutely wonderful. And what an athlete. And I think she is absolutely coming into her own at this time. She is, she has gone from being a couch potato, again, her words. Mm-hmm. In 10 years, she's now a world-class athlete, and she's worked really hard at that. And she's on fire. It's a shame that Fiona Wilde is not around at the moment. She's got a shoulder issue. She's had an operation. She's got to recuperate from that, because last year she was absolutely on fire. And to see those two girls together, again, Seychelles, new mother, she won't be competing. But April is on fire. It's a cliche, but she really is. And I can't wait to see her perform in London. Santa Monica, she just whooped everybody. She's a strong, strong woman. And she, as you know, you recently interviewed her, she's done this all very scientifically. That's her bag. She loves that. She's not doing this on a wing and a prayer. She really works hard at everything, body dynamics, food, nutrition, everything. She's a superstar, and she won Santa Monica in style. Can't wait to see her.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's incredible about April, I mean, I had a proper nerd fest with her when I spoke to her, both into the sports science, and we got into some really deep areas there. I think she had a sudden realization when she kind of reached a bit of a threshold in her performance that she needed to change things around, and she definitely did that. And I think since she's been building up her aerobic threshold, she has been unstoppable. And not just this year, not just for the APP, she won the Carolina Cup recently in 2022, and that was both competitions. And then she also won it in 2021, because that was sort of November, and that was horrendous conditions. So she's been in that form for quite some time. So she's absolutely been dominating it, and obviously that's where our money is. However, Candice, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, in my view, is really coming up on the rails there, because she did fantastically well in Santa Monica.
Candice, I have a proper soft spot for that girl. I didn't actually meet her in 2018 when we sort of launched SUP Junkie at the APP Tour. She was very quiet that year. She had an injury. She wasn't really on good form, and she just sort of kept herself to herself. I then was lucky enough to meet her in China, and I followed her. I stalked her until I could get a tiny interview with her, and she was absolutely delightful. She is the GOAT. She is just amazing. And it's not just stand-up paddleboarding, it's stand-up paddleboard surfing, it's surfing. again, I think she's coming back into her own. You know, she's had a couple of years of sort of being a little bit quieter. I think she's been out and about having fun, actually. And that often reignites the level, doesn't it? It sort of takes it up a notch. And again, I can't wait to see those two on the start line. But Candice she is a superstar. And we talked actually when I interviewed her about her retiring, and I think she's considered it, but she's not ready. You know, she's not ready. And she has a very strong faith, a religious faith, and she just believes that whichever direction she goes in, it is not her will, it is someone else's will. And I love that about her. She is just guided by her Lord, and she's doing pretty well, you know.
Yeah.
It will be really exciting to see those ladies on the start line. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, chatted with Candice last season, and her faith has been massively important because it gives her that sort of level of stability, because when you're a top class athlete, everything depends on your performance, and all it takes is an injury, and then suddenly your self-image goes from hero to zero, and that's really difficult to manage. But I kind of think of her a bit like the sort of, I know she's been compared to Venus Williams, and I think it's a real shame that her longevity and her incredible performance, because she's in a sport which, you know, is only just coming into the public consciousness, she hasn't really been recognised on a sort of hugely wider area. I mean, everyone within the sport obviously knows who she is and how incredible she is, but she's kind of like a bit of a Roger Federer as well, because when she was competing, I think there was one incredible year, I forget which one it was, but she competed in about 4 or 5 different top class events in different sort of variations of sport and outrigger and various other things, and came top in them all. So, you know, just quite a phenomenal athlete, really.
She absolutely is. Yeah, she really is.
So that's the top two. That's where our money is. So in terms of the men's field, obviously Connor is doing pretty well. He's out there leading at the moment. He dominated the sprint race and scored heavily at Santa Monica in the distance race, even though he didn't come first.
He's again had, I don't know whether they've had the quiet years or whether it's just been lean because of the situation we found ourselves in. But he's a new father, and again, I think coming back on top form again. You know, maybe this break has done some of them the world of good.
Okay, so Connor is in pole position then at the moment after Santa Monica.
But he's definitely come back in big form. A couple of youngsters out there that have been really exciting to watch. Shrimpy,
yes.
I do not know his name, but he's known by everybody as Shrimpy. And I think he's really, really young, actually. Is he not 15 or 16? But my goodness me, what a paddler. Tiny, super, super strong, you know, almost as wide as he is tall. And he really gave a run for his money, didn't he, out in Santa Monica? He's one to watch. And the other young man there are a few young men. Actually, they are pretty young. Itzel Delgado, who's been rumbling, hasn't he, since I've been racing, or maybe 7 years. He's been there or thereabouts, but I think this is probably one of his biggest achievements, which is fantastic. And the other one to watch is a young man called Bodie van Olmen, who I think is about 15. I mean, you know, he came third overall. It's quite incredible, isn't it? You know, there was quite a lot of drama over in Santa Monica with the fog and race results and everything. We won't go into that, but these guys raced, and they raced amazingly well. Arthur Arutkin as well, he was up there. You've got the older names, the Danny Ching. You know, he's sort of come back and is getting stuck in and doing amazingly well as well. And he's a really exciting. I love watching him because obviously his other sport, maybe his preferred sport, is outrigger canoe. So he's got that great sort of crossover of sports to sort of keep his passion alive, I guess. I do find myself veering towards, you know, looking at the women. I'm always, you know, I'm always interested to know which which woman has won. And then I like to look at the guys afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, that's where all the competition is, where all the excitement is, I think. So the distance race is on the Sunday. It's 10.5 miles.
And that will be really exciting.
Absolutely. Taking off from Battersea Bridge and finishing in Canary Wharf. I think there's a portage section in there as well where they have to come off the Thames. And so it's quite a weird race course, but brilliant in that it finishes down there in the basin. And 10.5 miles. I'm not sure when the leading paddlers will be coming in, but that starts at 9 o'clock on the Sunday. And then it's a 4-day festival. So it starts on the Thursday, and then there's a sort of corporate race there. On the Friday, there will be a thing with the athletes in the afternoon, and obviously the paddle village, which will be operating the entire weekend. And the fireworks really start on the Saturday with the sprint event there, and That's going to be going on all day.
Yep, there's loads of demos. In fact, the demos are running all through the weekend, I think. So if you're not, if you want to go up and have a look at SUP yoga or something else, maybe race clinics, they've got all that going on, which is really good. But yeah, Saturday, that's when it really starts. You've got the sprint racing for the open class, the pros, the juniors. There'll be some great juniors in there. That'll be really exciting. And the sprints are historically probably the best racing to watch. You've got boy turns, and these guys don't mess about. Their boards will be crossing. They'll be jumping over each other's boards. I don't know what the ruling is on that. It'd be interesting to look at that. But there's a lot of clashing of boards, carbon against carbon. But it makes it really exciting. And they are absolute pros at the step back turn. So there'll be a lot of that going on. And yeah, the sprints, I love the sprints. It's very, very exciting. Unfortunately, Casper won't be there. He's got other priorities like getting married because, again, he's a master sprinter, isn't he? But Conor Baxter is no
slouch, is
no slouch at sprinting. So that will be really exciting. And again, as you say, on the Sunday, we've got the pro distance race, and then there are some other races actually, which is really lovely. You've got a 7K race, so that's for the open class to have a crack at. Mm-hmm. You've got a race on the Sunday. Well, I don't know.
It's an oceans
I think race is not.
Yeah,
not the word. Paddle for the Oceans.
There you go.
And that's really just to sort of bring light, to highlight our love for the oceans and to protect it. And you've even got a 1.5K race for beginners. So, I mean, there really is something for everyone on the whole of the weekend. Just come up and get stuck in. And, if you've never raced before, have a go at the 1.5K race. It'll just be great fun. And I'm sure they'll have some great gongs for people, to celebrate them joining in. And then right at the end, you've got the awards, which is always great fun to watch, isn't it? And the after party. So
there you go.
Happy days.
Fantastic. and we're going to be there, aren't we? Sticking microphones and cameras in front of people's faces. And, as you say, it's great chatting to some of these international athletes and, incredibly friendly. There's something about the circuit and, clearly it's sort of elbows out when they're racing, but there seems to be, a good relationship between the racers other than that. Now, of course, it's not just about international athletes, this one. We've got a really healthy representation of British athletes, some of whom have got success this season. And so just take us through the runners and riders there. First of all, in terms of the female paddlers, because Holly's going to be leading the charge, I think. Holly
Pye, she has done incredibly well this year. She's not been paddling for that long. She sort of took it up, I think, because all of her family paddled and raced, and she probably thought, I better join in. And this year, she's taken herself out to Europe. She's put herself out there, and she's done really well. She's been placed. She's put herself out there against all those international paddlers in Europe, and she's done well. And she's proven herself, and she's also proven herself on the DB SUP race circuit. So she Holly is just one to watch. Absolutely. I've got a very soft spot for Holly. She's just a sweet, she's got a fierce competitive side, but she's also a very sweet girl and a heart of gold. She comes from a wonderful family. All her family are just lovely. And yeah, let's cheer on Holly. She's brilliant. I see her doing great things. And the other one who's qualified from the GB SUP contingent. So we had APP gave 2 wildcard entries to the top 2 paddlers, male and female, in the distance race category in GB SUP. And the other lady who got through, who is quite a surprise but not, is Sonia Brotherton. Now, it won't be a household name probably for the international paddlers because she's not been over there. But if you were talking about maybe eventing or riding a horse, people might know her name. She is a sportswoman, and she again has absolutely put her heart and soul into stand-up paddleboard racing. And again, I think she has got her nutrition right. She's got her training right. She's been through a huge amount of boards to really test them and see what works for her. And she put the time in. And she deserves to be there. She's got herself out to those races, and she's got the second place, and she's going to be competing at the APP, which is wonderful. She deserves it. She's worked really hard for that place. But I don't know whether it was a surprise for her, but it'll be interesting to watch those 2 girls.
Absolutely, and both of those are familiar to anyone who keeps an eye on the GB racing scene. And it's fantastic to have them representing Great Britain. Now, just take us through the men, because we've got several exciting prospects in that race as well. We saw a couple of them actually at Base Up, the Battle of the Bay recently. Just talk us through those.
So the 2 male paddlers who've qualified, the same as Holly and Sonia, who won first and second place, are Will Keatley and Hector Jessel. Now, I've been keeping my eye on both those young men for a couple of years, and they are fierce friends, fierce competitors. There's been a lot of toing and froing. One race, one wins, one race, the other wins. But I believe they're juniors too. They are pretty amazing young paddlers. So for those 2 young men to get a spot, to be invited to paddle at the APP Tour, I mean, what more could you want from your paddling life? It's almost a dream come true, isn't it? I think it would be lovely to talk to them both and see if that's how they feel. I think they're both really excited. I know that a couple of them have got, I believe that both of them will get sponsorship and help, along to help them with their journey. But yeah, a couple of very exciting young men who have qualified. So it'll be really interesting to watch them up against, some of the, I guess, what would be some of their heroes. If they love SUP racing, like I used to love SUP racing, I had my heroes, the Annabelle Andersons, the Candice, and I guess they might have their heroes too. So I think they'll have a good time at the APP weekend.
And it's so good as well because that we're having these young paddlers coming up as well, because for a while, we had our own evergreen athletes, and they're still sort of doing incredibly well. But they were unchallenged for so many years, both sort of male and female, and it's just so great to see these very young athletes coming up. And of course, we've got Blue Ewer as well, haven't we? Who won the Battle of the Bay and in dominating form. So he's going to be an exciting entrant flying the flag as well.
Absolutely. Blue has definitely been one to watch over the last couple of years. He's absolutely dominated the GB SUP series, winning the technical series, the distance over a couple of years. And he has been streaks ahead of everybody else. I mean, literally hundreds of meters away. He's really put the work in. I think he's been doing a lot of cross training, gym work. again, he's a young man, but there is no doubt that he will give some of those guys a run for their money. He also has been out to Europe. He went to a race in Europe recently, maybe a month ago, and again gave a very, very good account of himself. But oh my goodness, he's a proper athlete. It'll be really exciting to watch Blue. I'm glad he's got his invitation to go. He absolutely deserves to be there for sure.
And speaking to some of those people, as I did on the beach in Bournemouth, we went down to watch Battle of the Bay. They seem to be very level-headed in terms of their expectations. They were really looking at the APP in London as something to really learn from. And obviously, you know, they've got that experience with all of that top talent coming on board. But, you know, the prospect for sporting success for GB athletes, I mean, it really does look exciting for the future, doesn't it? So Sarah, what are you doing at the APP this year? What are you hoping to do?
Well, Anthony and I will be going up, as we have done the last couple of times that we've been there, and we're hoping to get stuck in, and maybe stuck in a little bit more. I've been speaking to the organisers, and my dream would be to, I mean, obviously we do our own live feed. We've done that the last couple of times, and I think we do it pretty well. It's just something that I love. I love that interaction with other people and talking about the athletes. And I would just love to get involved in the bigger picture, really, and maybe do, guest appearance on their live feed. Anthony will have the camera, so he'll be snapping away, and we'll hopefully get some interviews as well. So hoping to be a little bit more involved. I mean, obviously I know the British athletes so well. I've followed them for years. I can talk about them for hours. So I do feel that I could maybe, give them something that, maybe someone else might not. So I'm hopeful.
Well, no one knows the landscape better than you, certainly in terms of GB racing. And I think having having an experienced person who has already provided that sort of content in the past to a huge standard. I mean, you're hugely practiced as well on the GB circuit as well. I always tune in for your commentaries. So whether it's official or unofficial, we'll both be there providing our support for the event. And it is a fantastic opportunity. And I think bearing in mind what a centre Great Britain is for stand-up paddleboarding in the world at the moment, and how enthusiastic the population of the island is for any sort of sporting event, but particularly such a new and exciting one. I think it's going to be an outstanding event, and I'm really looking forward to it, and really looking forward to working with you up there.
Oh, I can't wait, Simon. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you and do some collaborations, which I think have been fun. I think we work well together. And I can't wait to be up there. I can't wait to be doing official, unofficial. I shall be covering it one way or another because I love it, and I'm passionate about it. And it's just great to be able to bring it to maybe the people who can't get up there and can't be part of it. But yeah, it'll be great, and great to see those athletes all competing together, including our wonderful GB athletes. It'll be brilliant. Can't wait.
So there we have it. Thank you to Tristan, Holly Blue and Sarah SUP Junkie Thornley for joining me in this episode, and all links are in the show notes. I think we can say that we're officially excited about the APP World Tour event in London, and we're really looking forward to meeting you there. And I can't think of a better place to show off the sport in a more spectacular setting. So if you are able to join us, that would be fantastic. And if you can't make it in person, we hope you'll join us on the live feeds. And if you can't join us on the live feeds, well, we'll see you on the water.